Okay, so let's go ahead and draw some feet. A lot of times feet get overlooked. It's way down at the bottom of the body, and there's a lot more exciting stuff going on up here. But when you draw feet, you don't want to disregard them, because feet have just as much rhythm and things going on in them as any other part of the body. And so there's certain things that you need to know and realize and kind of be aware of as you're drawing them. They're like the hands, they have some neat rhythms that happen with the toes, the way the tendons work, the way just the foot overall works. They're very similar to the hands, just with different proportions, okay? So why don't we just go ahead and dive in. First thing, let's just talk about the skeleton coming down. First things first, you got the tibia that comes down and connects here, and then you've got the fibula, that comes down here like this. This is your ankle, okay? This is the ankle on the outside, okay? Your ankle, then you got your ankle on the tibia on the inside. Remember, I was talking about in another video, your ankle on the inside is higher than the ankle on the outside, okay? So keep that in mind. Then you've got several bones in here that come in, just like in your hand and in your wrist. You've got a whole bunch of bones in your wrist. You've got the same thing happening in your feet as well. And I'm just gonna kind of scribble that in, because then these bones here come down into the foot, and then you've got bone here that comes in, and this all leads into the pinky toe, and then you've got your other toes right here that come in. Now I wanted to show you this, because I wanted to show you the heel. That heel is very strong. You got a big bone right there. Your heel bone kind of comes in. This is all part of that heel bone right here. I'll shade that in so you can see it. It's a very big bone right there, okay? There's a lot of tendon, there's a lot of stress that goes on that bone. And so when you realize that, that'll help you in your drawing. You've got a huge tendon that comes down. Your Achilles tendon comes down and attaches into the back. And that gives you all of that power to stand up on your toes, to run, to walk, all of that, okay? So that's a very big, it's a powerful area of the foot. Another thing I want you to think about, this is just informational, but for comparative anatomy, think of the back leg of, say, a cat. And that back leg comes down like so. Let's say it looks something like this, okay? This right here is the foot, just like on us. So if we were to stand up on our toes, it's the same thing. Cats, four-legged animals that walk on their toes, this is how they walk. So it's as if they were up on their back toes. We have all the same bones, we have all the same structure. They're just proportioned in different ways and meant to work differently. So, a cat is walking on its toes. If it's a human, you'd have the leg coming down into the knee, like so. There's that leg. And then, like so. That's the same thing. This and this are the same thing. Okay, so think about that. When if you're petting a dog, you pet your dog, you feel the back of their leg, that little spot on the back right there, that's their heel. And you can feel those tendons. They've got the same Achilles tendon as we do. Those tendons, those same tendons that give cats that ability to spring, dogs to run, it's the same tendon that gives us the ability to walk and run. Same exact thing, okay? So, now that you understand what's going on underneath there, let me knock this back a little bit. And we'll talk about some of the tendons that are happening underneath. And I just want to show you these tendons. The reason I want to show them, I don't want this to be a big anatomy lesson, but these tendons are what control your toes. Your toes have, not as much dexterity as your fingers, but they do have a lot of dexterity. They can move around. You can scrunch them. You can grip things with them. I can pick up pencils with mine. I'm a little bit monkey still, but there's still a little bit there's still a lot of dexterity there, okay? So I just want to get into that and show you. If you remember when we were talking about hands, and I talked about those tendons, there's a bunch of tendons that come through. There's like a sleeve underneath the skin here, and the tendons come underneath. And then you've got a couple of tendons that come underneath for the thumb. It's the same thing here. So right about in here, let me just draw the outside real quick and I'll show you what's going on underneath. There's an ankle. And then this will come down, we'll come down into a big toe. And we'll get into the other toes in here. I'm just going to do this very quickly. And we've got the ankle here and a heel. Okay? So, what's happening underneath is there's this sheath right here. There's a piece right here that kind of wraps around, connects back here. That's where the tendons come on under. So if you tighten up your foot, tighten your calf muscle, you can feel that flex. You can feel those tendons right in there, and you can feel that right there. That's what's coming down through underneath that sheath. And you've got tendons that are bunched up here, and you can feel, once again, you can feel that. If you tighten that up, you can feel that. And they come down into these 4 digits, like so. Now the pinky toe also has a couple of tendons that attach out here, a couple of them that connect to muscles up in the leg, so you can get a little bit more dexterity out of your pinky toe. And then the first toe, the big toe, this one here, connects over here and goes up. And all of these muscles in the front of your leg, you've still got, there's a bunch of muscles there. They're all connected to those tendons in the front. And you can feel that. Like I said, if you pull your whole foot towards your kneecap, if you flex it towards your kneecap, you can feel those muscles tense up, and you can feel those tendons get really tight down there, okay? So all those tendons are there attached to muscle that are there to pull not just the toes up and down, but to pull the whole entire foot up and down as well. Okay, so now that we know that, let's go ahead and let's just start drawing. So I'm going to draw a foot coming down. I'm just going to talk about some of the things I think about when I'm drawing. So now that I know you know what's happening underneath there, well, there's a tendon that comes down, a part of the bone, and that comes in, kind of comes under that ankle. Remember, on the outside, the ankle is lower. Now the foot, if we look at the foot from the bottom, you got a pad here, comes around. Obviously you got the heel right here, and you got here. It's almost like your hand. If you look at your hand, it's kind of got that same shape to it, except this part obviously would come up to be the big toe. So you got this feel, it comes around. You've got an ankle here, an ankle there. This is if we're looking up, and then the calf muscle, if we're looking up the leg, okay? And then the toe, and here. Now, this is a little bit big. There are so many different toes and feet, and everybody's got different feet. But this is kind of generally, just like in the hand. Remember I was showing you on the hand how it kind of comes up and peaks right up here? Well, the foot does the same thing. Kind of comes up, peaks, and you've got toe here, and they start to curl under. Toe here, and then the little toe. Okay? So thinking about that, there's the outside of the foot, here's the inside. Some people are flat-footed, some people have more of an arch. I'm very flat-footed. So when I was drawing this part here, this comes down into that. I know there's right up in here, there's this little break in here where that sheath kind of wraps around. I think about that underneath the skin. And then that comes down right here. But thinking about this shape right here, well, here's the outside of the foot. I'm drawing the outside, so that's going to be a longer shape coming around. And I generally will start just with I won't define the toes right away. And here, it kind of steps down. Imagine it stepping down when you go into the big toe, like so. Kind of steps down, and then that will come around like so. All right. Now, let's blow that up a little bit. Thinking about that long shape, that's going to feed right into that little toe. And a lot of times it kind of curls this way. Like so. Curls. And they're all very tightly packed in there. And you've got, just like in the fingers, you got these knuckles. You know, you got but they're all just super tightly spaced together, packed together. There's a knuckle there. If I go up to this toe, a knuckle there, very knobby. And you'll see it comes down in here. Like so. We'll bring in the other toe here. There's a knuckle way back up in here. And it flares out slightly and comes in to be the next toe, right in there. And some people have little toenails, some people have bigger toenails. It all varies quite a bit. So we end up with something that looks like this. Now there's the tendon, the Achilles tendon comes in, so there's a bit of a hollow back here. But then when someone stands up, there tends to be this bit of meat right here, and then it comes up over into the foot. Right here where all the rest of the tendons come down, right in here. This tends to flare out a little bit, especially when someone's standing. If I were to show you someone standing from behind. So thinking about that, a tendon coming down, I'm looking at this person standing from behind. Here the ankle is a little higher on the inside, lower on the outside, remember that. And as that foot comes down, I imagine it kind of flaring out just a hair, and we go into the toes here. That's looking at the foot from behind. Here's the outside of the foot. This is going into the pinky toe back here. So you get this meat that pushes out. On the inside of the foot, there we go, like that. This comes up. Let's say we want to draw the foot from the looking down, and we're looking at the inside of the foot. Once again, I always think of, I've got this shape. Here's that goes into the big toe, and then it comes around, and we go into the heel. There's an ankle here. It comes up. Think of it like that. We're looking down on the foot. So here we are looking on the inside. There's a bit that comes in right here. This goes into the ball of the foot. Remember, thinking about that shape. And just like the hand, remember we're talking about how the fingers kind of curl. They have a twisting feel. The toes will do the same thing. And this, I think, is probably left over from our days hanging out in the trees, but that first toe separates. I'm just going to indicate that real quickly. Separates from the rest of the toes, like a thumb. And we'll have that come around. And these toes just slowly Don't forget the knuckles. These toes just slowly kind of curl right around like so. You might get a little bit of separation in there. So if I knock this back a little bit, we can tie this down like so. So there's a bit of a knuckle right there on this big toe. That's going to come up. And this feeds into the ball of the foot. This comes in, there's the arch right there. And the heel comes around, like so. Once again, I'm thinking about looking down. I'm looking down the foot. So I'm trying to get a little bit of foreshortening here in the ankle. This comes around like so. There we go. And I'm thinking about how some of that part of the knuckle and the meat of that foot kind of comes around that side there. And then that toe, that front toe, that big toe is, it's got the, remember I drew the thumb. It's, it's very similar to the thumb, just squashed. So it comes down. And you get this kind of shape to it as it attaches to the foot, okay? You get that kind of shape. So let's go ahead and draw that in. Kind of square it off. Big toes, everyone's got different toes, so I'm just gonna draw this in. I kind of flew through this toenail. I want to get this toenail drawn in the right way. There, something like that, okay? It's a fairly large toe, but that feels right. And like I said, you got that tendon that comes up like so. Now, your feet have thickness, so I'm thinking about these toes being attached. If I were to draw this down, the toes attach right in there like so. So imagine they have to attach to the front of that plane. Knuckle, knuckle, like so. Bring that around. It comes in there like so, like that. Okay? Then this comes up like that. And we'll also get maybe a little bit of tendon right there. And once again, thinking about this foot kind of pushing, or the toe, going away from us and coming up into this first knuckle and then the other knuckle right in there. And then right into that plane, right into the front of the foot. Okay? And then, once again, as I was saying earlier, the rest of these toes just kind of curling under, curling away from us. So look at this flow that we've got. As we draw this in here, see how you get that flow that way. The foot isn't just a straight thing. You got this kind of flow that comes in this way. If we look at the foot from underneath again, with the toes here, you get this. Toes coming down like that. You get that kind of feel, okay? Remember that. The toes have a flow to them. Now remember I was talking earlier about the feet having a lot of flexibility in those toes being able to move around. Well, what if we drew it from the front with kind of the feet flexing out like I was talking about? Well, say we have a foot coming down, coming into an ankle, down here. Let's say it comes down. Let's say it's a person taking a step right here. Now, one thing I like to do when I'm drawing feet, especially if I'm drawing them at an angle like this, you'll see that I'll just kind of indicate where that bottom of that foot is. There's that peak I was talking about before. Now I'm going to attach the toes right onto the back of this. And we got that ball of that foot right in there. That comes around, comes into here like so. So this comes up, and this is going to go right into that big toe. Right up here. That comes around like remember that shape I was talking about? That big toe has, it's big in the bottom and kind of comes up. It's got that kind of shape to it. And you can get a fair amount of separation right in here coming into the other toes. So that underneath it looks, you got this kind of feel. There's a stretch right in there. A stretch of skin coming down in here. And then we got another toe that's kind of shaped like this. You notice how it all kind of follows this direction. That's going to come down. Now, these toes get smaller and smaller. And then finally you get down to these last two, and I'm just going to put them right together. So we got a little toe coming up here. Like so. Maybe a little stretch. And then that pinky toe coming in like that. So you end up with a foot that looks something like that. And the other thing too is you can get, there's a fair amount of wrinkles and whatnot that you can end up getting in the foot in here. Like so. There. So I'm going to knock that back a little bit. Let's tie that down. So that foot comes down, that calf muscle comes down, and because that foot's coming up, there's going to be a kind of a stretch back here in the heel. And then there's that ankle. It's going to come up into, maybe there's some creases from the skin being bunched up, from the foot being pulled up that way. That'll come up right up into the foot, like so. And this will come down. Maybe there's a contact on the ground right there, so I'll flatten out that heel a little bit, and here's that big toe, that shape, and I'm separating it out from the rest of the other toes. It's kind of its own thing. It stands on its own most of the time. Okay. Let's bring this around. There's a little bit of, see that ball of that foot right there, maybe a little definition right there. And then this comes in. There we go. And here. Same thing here. Little stretch of the skin. There. And that comes down like so. Then that connects, and we get into this nice part of the heel. There's that long part. See, this curves under, and this comes around like so. Long and smooth right there, like that. Okay? So if we decide to color it in, just want to show you a little bit of, we can get more form if I show you a little bit of, if I paint in a little bit of form. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. So there's that foot pulling back like so. And you'd have shadow, little shadow here, maybe a little shadow in there. But then in here, I'm going to put all of this right into shadow. Maybe a little shadow coming around that way. That way you can see that form a little better. Like so. There we go. We go right down into shadow in these guys. Okay? So there's that foot. Let's do another view along those same lines. Thinking about that flexibility of the toes. Once again, I want you to realize that you can really move your toes around quite a bit. So let's bring a foot down, bring the calf down, coming in here. We're going to go into ankle, ankle. Maybe there's a little piece of the heel that we can see there. Let's move this up a little bit. And that's going to come right down in. Remember, there's that curve. And I'm thinking about that front plane that the feet are going to attach to, or the toes are going to attach to. Okay, so this will come down. Remember, we've got tendons that are all coming in along here that attach to those first toes, and then you've got the tendon that comes in for your big toe. But I'm going to bring this out because what I'm going to do is I'm going to flare those toes. I'm going to flare them right out. That comes up like that. So you'll end up with tendons. These will be fairly flexed right there. But let's say I bring in, we're going to foreshorten a little bit. So I'm going to bring the big toe down in here. I'm going to do that and just have it just come right up like so. Foreshorten that toenail. Like that, and we'll get in there and we'll tie that down in just a minute. But now I'm thinking, okay, maybe we can see the bottom of the pad, because and I'm going to stretch. There's skin in between your toes. You can feel that. If you reach down, you can feel the skin between your toes. So now I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to pull these toes up right into a unit, right, like right up in here. These toes will come right up. You can pull them up and they'll flex. You'll get, even the skin will bunch up and these tendons will tighten up. Whoops, there we go. So we get that toe in here so you can understand what it is. So now you can see that that would pull on that skin right there. We got a little bit going on like that. And these toes they can all pull up as a unit. And they've got that kind of rhythm to them. They come in here, once again, they got this S-shape feel because they're pulling. Then this will come down right into the pinky toe, like so. You might even be able to pull this, we could even pull that down even further. Pull that toe down. Like so. So you can get that type of flexibility right there. You can get this kind of flexibility in the toes. Knock that back. So there's that ankle coming down. Remember, it's higher on the inside, lower on the outside. Coming down, some meat of the foot right there. This is going to come in. It goes right into the ball of the foot, which feeds under. And then that big toe comes in. It's going to come right out here. We'll get some nice foreshortening on that toenail. See how that toe sits? There's the ball of the foot. Then we're going to get this comes in and attaches. Remember, we're thinking about that front plane and where those toes attach, and the skin stretching right in here. Get a little bit of stretch in that skin, and that feeds up. There's a knuckle, and then a knuckle here. And the same thing, see that shape to the pinky, or these toes, middle toe. There we go, like so. The same thing, it kind of comes up like that. And we get this flow, this S shape. Those toes come down like that. There we go. Another toenail, like so. And then right into the little pinky toe, like so. You can pull those toes way up. You might even get a little bit of wrinkling in the skin. Here's that tendon. This tendon right here for the big toe, that'll be pretty dominant. So this comes up here. See there? So you still, treating these toes as a unit together. You can move them around really quite a bit separately from your big toe. And if I were to throw a little bit of color in here and a little bit of value, so you can see what I'm talking about. I want you to see what I'm talking about with this tendon. So you can think about that if you're drawing, figure drawing, character designing. If we're thinking about the light coming off from, coming in from this direction, then you'll get some darkness in here. But this, we really get, that tendon will really cast a shadow coming into here. That'll be strong right there. And then we'd get maybe a few of those tendons there. Let's put that in shadow. Coming down like so. So now you can see that form even better. Okay? And if we want to, let's go in here. Some of these will catch some light. That tendon will definitely catch a little bit of light, so now I can show off those tendons a little better. So now you can see, okay, that's how those tendons flex. You see there? Let's do some foreshortening. Let's look at the foot straight on, just so you can see what's happening with those toes. Okay? So if I've got the foot, coming down like so. I'm just going to draw this very quickly. Got a foot coming down. It's going to come down into here. I tend to, when I'm doing my shorthand, I tend to draw feet like so for looking at them from the front. And you're going to have this come up here. You're going to have an ankle there, an ankle up in here. All right. This comes in. Now this has got to break out for the big toe. And then we're going to have, that toe is going to come in there. And remember, we've got, all those toes have to connect to the front of that foot. There's that plane in the front. So we're going to have, I tend to separate that big toe from everything else. And then you've got this unit here that comes in to your other 4 toes. And they're going to come there, here, and in here. And you're going to see that they all, just like, if you remember in our hands kind of curl like so. The toes do the same thing. Our front toe kind of curls in, pushes in, and the pinky toe comes in the other way. So it all comes in like this. Okay? So, thinking about that big toe shape, remember I drew that, that shape. Looks like if you think about a mushroom, think about the end of a mushroom. And that's going to flare out. That first toe really flares. Okay, like this. And squashes. Think about a big heavy flour sack and the way that weight will come down. And then you've got that toenail that foreshortens. And you get this shape. That really helps with getting that illusion of something coming out at you. And then that's going to come around and turn that way. Now, you'll get a shape here and a shape here. And they kind of start to curl in, and then this curls in here. Okay? Once again, thinking about those knuckles, you get that shape. And this comes up, comes around like so. And you have another one. Remember, they kind of step down. Your toes kind of step down like so. When you're, that comes up into the foot, and those little toes, they kind of step down. The big toe does the same thing. You get this feel. Now it's going to come up right into that unit there, that unit there. This one comes down. And remember, think about these toes squashing out. There's a squash there. Blow that up a little bit. Once again, think about, if you're having problems, look at your own feet. You've got feet. That's going to come up. And this little toe will kind of come right under. We get this kind of feel with the toe like so. Okay? And then tendon here. Remember I was talking about that tendon, and then these tendons all kind of connect in here. The tendon in there like so. So let's tie this down like we did the other ones. So that foot comes down. We come into the ankle. This is going to start coming into the front of the ball of the foot. And then that big toe starts up in here. And you get a little bit of a step down. Right up into the knuckle of that toe. Remember that squash, that squashed flour sack feel to the toe that I was talking about? There. Thinking about, in foreshortening, you want these overlapping shapes. Overlap those shapes going back. That's what I'm trying to do here. Overlapping shapes. See, I'm separating those toes. There tends to be a separation, a strong separation between that. So, like between the thumb and the forefinger, it's the big toe and the next toe. And it's got that big shape on the end of it. Almost like a matchstick. And that goes up into here. Same thing, you get the foreshortening on that toenail follows the form of that toe, like so. We'll come over here, and all of this flares out. They all have that squash feeling on the end of the toe. With a little bit of definition here because it steps down. You get here, it comes down, it comes here, here, here into the toe, okay? And the same thing here, a little bit of a squash in that toe. And see, everything is starting to curl in. We get a little bit of a curl that way, and that curls this way. Foreshortening. This comes around into your little pinky toe, which curls right under. It's got that feel. And this goes into the side meat of the foot I was talking about before. And that ankle, on the outside, it's lower. Inside, it's higher. Okay? Actually, I can pull this in. I'll pull this in a little bit more. There we go. That has a better feel to it. Not so clubfoot. It was looking a little club-footed to me. There. And these tendons right here will show up. So there's the foot coming right at you. And as we color this in, I want to throw a little bit of shadow on here so we can emphasize this form a little bit more. So there's our base, and if I throw a little shadow on there, we got shadow that comes down here. I'm going to think of the light come off to the right. There we go, and it comes in. And we got a little shadow in there, like so. This is going into shadow. We definitely got dark shadow in there. But maybe that, because of the way it's stepping down, we'll have a little bit more shadow there. Like so, and these tendons cast a little shadow. And here we come in. Let's just add a little bit of highlight. That would catch a little light in there. These tendons catching light. This would catch some light along here, maybe along that tendon, like so. Okay, so there's a foot looking down towards it, the foreshortening of the foot. Remember too that the foot takes a lot of weight. There's a lot of stress that goes into that. Thinking about a ballet dancer, a person standing up on their tiptoes, there's a lot of weight that goes into that. And if we were to draw that, what would that look like? Well, your foot, if you had someone standing up on their tiptoes, this would come down and you get a nice strong arch right here because you want to get everything on the front, on those bones holding that weight. So this is going to come in, and then the heel over here comes down, and then everything is kind of straight up and down. And we'll get that big toe like so. But see how this curves? And we get this nice hard angle here. And this is going to feed right into the ankle. There we go. This will feed right into this ankle. Here's the outside of the foot. Pinky toe. Stepping down. Working into the other toes until you've got the big toe right here, stepping down and coming into there. But you'll get a lot of bunching right here, but there's a lot, all of this kind of comes down to a point, like so. There you get that. But this is the big part that I want you to think about, is that curve. It all kind of curves in, like so. So it comes down. Right into the tendons of that big toe. Then the other toes. See that step down that I'm doing? Step down, and you get a nice squash. Let's flatten that out. There we go. Okay. So remember that when you have someone pushing their foot out, standing on their toes, or if they're just kicking out, you're going to get this curve right here. If I draw that foot, just sticking out, if someone were to kick, remember comes into an ankle, heel. You can bring the big toe up if you wanted to and curl the other toes down, like so. But you get that curve, okay? So that's drawing feet. Remember, there's, look at your own feet. Look at them from different angles. Remember, there's, you've got this shape right here. Right here, this shape that comes up. You've got the ball of the foot for looking at it from underneath. And it comes around. Remember, it's kind of like this part of your hand, all right? And it comes into the heel. So we get that kind of flow. And then the toes kind of come up this way, okay? And then you've got these. The other four toes, remember, kind of curl. They have the same rhythm as our fingers do, where they turn in towards the front. That little toe curling under, like so. Remember, we were talking about the flexibility, how flexible those four toes can be separate from the big toe. All those tendons, how those tendons work. Remember, thinking about the front, when you're looking at a foot from front on, how those toes squash out. Think of the kind of that wet cement, the wet flour sack, how it's got weight and it flattens out and gets flat on the bottom and sags out on the sides. That gives you that weight, that gives you the toes' ability to push off. Okay? Remember, we also talked about how those tendons work underneath the skin, how they're all connected to the muscles of the front of the shin, and they pull the foot up. They're all meant to pull that foot right up or flex the toes up. Remember, we talked about that Achilles tendon that attaches to that big bone in the heel. The heel is very robust bone because it handles so much weight, so much stress. Remember, it's very similar to the leg of a dog or a cat. Those tendons are there to get us to run, to walk, to stand up, to stand on our tiptoes. All right. So, and remember too, you've got this foot. The foot would come down like so. And imagine it, those toes have to connect right in here, okay? Imagine that front plane of the foot. like so, all right? That big toe having that big kind of mushroom cap shape. It looks like a mushroom, all right? And then you've got this arching feel. Well, there is an arch to that side of the foot, and then this has that slow, nice smooth arc on the outside there, okay? So those are feet. Why don't we go ahead and move on to the next section?